Welcome back for chapter 3, and today what we're going to do is we're actually going to do a little coding, so that's going to be fun. So we're going to be getting started with R. We're going to go through some of the basics of how to use this software, but first what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to know how to install it and where to find it. We're going to gain familiarity with using some of the command line commands, and we're going to learn how to build vectors. The lab today that you're going to have to do for homework and hand in expands a lot more on the R, so you'll have some experience finding it on your own. So first, let's get started with installing R. First, you're going to need to have a desktop computer. So just as a precursor, regular R is not going to work on mobile devices such as tablets or smartphones. If you need to install it on either one of these, you're going to need to find RStudio. It's going to be in chapter 7 of our book. We're going to get there eventually, but if you need it now, go ahead and get to it a little bit early. So this installation is only going to work for your desktop computers. First, you're going to go down and find the R out on the internet, and you're going to install it. We're going to do it here together in just a second. If you have any need for troubleshooting, you can shoot me an email. You can go into the R for Data Science book. The link is in eLearning. Or you can actually just Google for internet videos and guides of how to install R. So let's get to the installation. Let's take a look at how to install the R software. So if you go to the week 2 overview in eLearning, I did put a link in resources, or you can just type it in, or you can even Google R installation. So if you click on that, it will take you to the whole R network launching page. So over here, download and install R precompiled binary distributions. That's what we want, Windows and Mac. So choose your operating system. I'm on a Windows right now, so I'm going to click download R for Windows. So here it has a lot of information, but right here, install R for the first time. That's what you're going to want to click on. Okay. It's going to take you to the latest version 4.0.3 is what it took me to today. Today's the 18th, so hopefully it doesn't change before tomorrow. And what you can do is click on where it says download for Windows. It's going to put the little download in your tray. As soon as it gets done downloading, you can go ahead and click it and to open the download. So it's going to ask, do you want to allow this app to make changes? You say yes, and it's going to go about its business. Okay. Let me try and move it to the screen. There we go. So I want it in English. I do, you can read this. I'm going to be a bad teacher and not read it. You can actually select the destination. So you click next. I usually just select all the components and next. Do you want to customize the startup options? No, we're just going to do defaults. That's fine. Setup will create a program shortcuts in a start menu. If you want to name the start menu, that's fine. Or if you don't want to create it, that's fine. I'm just going to select next. You can also select a desktop shortcut. I don't like desktop shortcuts. They drive me a little bit insane, not going to lie. Or create a quick launch. I'll do that later on my own. And then you go ahead and click install. So it should just kind of churn for a little while, which is typical of many installations. If you are having problems, there are internet videos and guides you can go and take a look at. You can Google. You can also look in that book that I have linked in eLearning as well. When it gets done, it's going to say completing the R for Windows setup, and you go ahead and click on finished. So R is now installed on my machine. Unfortunately, I've got it in my start menu, which is on another window, so you cannot see it. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on the open button. Now I clicked on the one that says R64. There is one that says RI386. I clicked on the RX64. That's the one that I opened. And you get here's your version. Bunny Wennies Freak Out. Their versions are really funny, you guys. So I know like the one in the example is like fire safety. So apparently this version is called Bunny Wennies Freak Out, which I love. So here's all of the stuff that shows you that it installed correctly, and we'll get to some examples here in a minute. R does use a command line type of interface similar to Python, which is the most basic method of interaction with R. First, notice that there is a greater than symbol, and that is what is considered the R command prompt. This is where you're going to type your commands for processing. Once you get another greater than symbol, R is ready for a new command. We're going to see all this in action in just a second. So what we're also going to see is that brackets are going to show up with line numbers. So this is going to allow you to help reference various line numbers if you're making comments or such. So first, we're going to do is a super quick example. We're going to add 1 plus 1. Okay, we're going to hit the enter key. We're going to get a result with the line number, and then you're going to watch that the prompt is going to come back waiting for the next command. So we are going to have a command, result line number, and then the prompt for the next command. So let's see this in action. Let's look at that quick example that we saw. So this is exactly where we were before. Here is that greater than sign, which is going to be the command prompt for R going forward. And all you have to do is type 1 plus 1, okay? Type the commands at that command prompt and then go ahead and hit the enter key. Now what comes up is you're going to have that line number within the brackets, and then the result is going to be there next to it. Now you can see also the color change which occurs, which is kind of nice when you're looking at it, because if everything's going to be all blue, it your brain kind of goes a little wonky, at least mine does. So all of your commands are going to be red and all of your results are going to be blue. And then what it does is when it is ready and it has completed the command and is ready for its next command, it puts that greater than sign command prompt back there. So you can see how that is going to indicate to you that the process is finished and it's ready for the next. We talked last time about vectors and how they are basically a list of items, all of the same type, like a list of ages that were all integers. We're going to load these vectors into R here in a minute, but first I just want to discuss a few things so that they stay in your mind as we do the example. A vector is going to be created using the C command for combine. After the command is going to be a set of parentheses, and within those parentheses are going to be all of your data items separated by commas. If you want to store that vector in a named location or a variable name, you're going to have to use that less than dash combination that we talked about last time, and that's going to save it into that location. So let's break that down step by step in R. Let's create that vector using our R program. I'm not going to worry about what I already did with the 1 plus 1. It's not a big deal. So first, let's actually create the vector. So in order to create the vector, we use that C command. We use the open and close parentheses. So I typically like to put the open and close together and then go back and insert what I need to insert. That way I don't forget the close at the end. So we're going to put the ages that we talked about last time, 43, 42, 12, 8, 5. Okay, we're going to go to the end of that line. When we get to the end of that line, we can go ahead and hit the enter key. You're going to see that R is going to generate again that command prompt saying, okay, I've created this vector. Okay, so it's going to report back to you on line 1, here's the vector that I have. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add that vector into a named identifier or a variable. So let's call it my family ages. Okay, so my family ages. And then remember, in order to save it into a location, we're going to use that less than and a dash to make it look like an arrow. And then we can retype that C command, which is going to create that vector. Okay, so we're going to do 43, 42, 12, 8, 5. Okay, when we go to the end of that, what it's going to do then is it is going to create that variable name and put that vector in it. Now, if you notice, nothing is output in that, after that, but it does come back to the command prompt, so it's ready for something else. Now, we can do something with that vector now. So let's use a command called sum. Okay, and a sum is going to do exactly what it sounds like. It's going to add up everything in that vector. So if I say sum and give it my family ages, Okay, go to the outside. What it should do is it should add 43 plus 42 plus 12 plus 8 plus 5. Okay, so I hit the return key, again, line number 1 there, and it gives me the answer of 110. Okay, it's going to add up all of the numbers that were in the vector held in that variable. Okay, you can do other commands when it comes to a vector, like you can do a mean, a range. So let's try those. Mean of my family ages. Okay, your mean is going to be a 22. Let's do a range of my family ranges. My family ages. Yeah, that one. Okay, it goes from 5 to 43. And let's do something stupid. So let's do a fish of my family ages. Why? I don't know. That's what the example said. Anyway, when you do get an error, what it's going to basically tell you is it's going to say, I don't know what that function is, could not find the function, and it's just going to error. It's going to give you the error, but then it gives you that command prompt to show you that it's, ready for the next command. So those are some cool things that you can do with creating and using a vector. If you need to, you can also save those commands like the sum and the mean and the range of that vector into a variable. All you need to do is do the variable name and then that less than dash assignment operator. You don't forget we use that C function, which stands for combine, and that's going to create your vector. The vector is going to be your most basic form of data storage in R. In R, you're going to store values. Remember that less than dash is going to be a big combination. Pretty much from here on out, we'll be referring to that as the assignment arrow. Okay, so when I speak of the assignment arrow, it's going to be the less than dash. So we have learned how to install the R package, we've gained a little bit of familiarity, and we learned how to build vectors. So what are we going to do next? So next we've got one assignment and one lab. The assignment, I only really need the answers. Use R. You can submit it using a Word document or a text document using the output from R. Either way is fine. We're going to go into the nitty-gritties here in about 2 seconds in the next slide. Also, we're going to have lab 1. Now, lab 1 is going to push you a little bit and make you think. I do want to see the R code in this. So what you're going to do in order to save R code, you can click on File, Save to File, and it's going to save it to a .txt file. It's going to basically take the console and dump it into a text file. Submit that text file. That's fine. If we can name these files that we're submitting with your last name in either assignment 1 or lab 1, that would be extremely helpful for me so I know what we're looking at. Now, assignment 1, basically we're going to set up these two vectors, height and weight, in R and one variable A. Okay, these are the exact instructions word for word. From there, you're going to do probably 10 or 11 different manipulations on these vectors and this variable. Okay, again, you can either just type the answers into the Word document, you can collect a screenshot of the answer and dump it into Word, or you can just take your whole R file as a .txt and submit that as well. I'll take any one of those 3. The .txt file is probably the easiest, but if you start having issues with errors and commands, sometimes it's easier just to type in the answer into Word. Now, the lab, on the other hand, so the lab is going to have things in it that we have not yet discussed. So first of all, it's going to talk about comments and how to use comments. Comments in R are used by the hashtag, and then anything after the hashtag is just completely ignored. Okay, so we're going to actually have to comment quite a bit in the lab. The second thing that we don't know about yet is that it's going to look at Boolean operators. Now, Boolean operators, I believe, are in chapter 5 in the book that's linked in eLearning, not the quote-unquote textbook that we've been using, but that additional resource book. It's free, it's online, so I believe it's in chapter 5. An and is an ampersand, an or is a straight line up and down, which is right above your enter key, and the not is the exclamation point. What you're going to do is you're going to recreate. There's a line given the assignment, okay? You're going to recreate that line given in the assignment. We want to add more comments because basically we're trying to explain Boolean operations to, say, 3rd or 4th grader, okay? Once you do that, you need to create similar lines demonstrating the opposite of what happened, okay? So I believe the first example is an and it gives a true. So then you want to combine 2 ands and somehow get a false, okay, if that makes sense. Then what you're going to do is create additional lines and comments for both sides of an OR. So you want to put an OR together and be able to get a true, and put an OR together and be able to get a false. Okay, the same thing with your not. You want to put a line together with comments of a not with a true and a not that gives you a false. Then we're going to create that additional example at the bottom, and what that's going to do, that's going to show you a little bit about an if statement along with a print statement. Again, you can dive quite deep into that free resource, that R for Data Science book, which is actually a very good book that has a lot more information on this, but the lab does kind of walk you through how to do that. And I apologize for my doggy barking. So anyway, happy coding, and I will see you all on Thursday.